What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today I am going to be doing a what I would do first round mock draft with trades. So I did the one without trades earlier in the week. We're going to be doing one with trades right now. I wanted to post this a lot earlier, but over the past 2 days I've been dealing with internet issues. Thank you, AT&T. This is definitely not an ad, but we finally got to do it because your boy somehow, some way knows how to absolutely demolish a router box and get it back together. So hallelujah for that. If you guys are new though, would love for you guys to like, comment, subscribe. I just hope that you guys enjoy the series and feel free to give me content or comments back on the content because I like to make good content for you guys. Don't be a dick about it. I like to learn. Make sure that you put me in my place, but make sure you do it kindly because I'm actually asking for the help. I'd much rather just make good content next time rather than have to deal with just a barrage of complete douche nozzles. So let's get right into this. Let's have a good time. Pick number 1 for Chicago. This is going to be a trade back. I think Jalen Carter would be an awesome addition, but I do think this team, I mean, you can toss it between having one superstar and then potentially having yourself set up for the future. I think there's not many teams that need just like one quarterback and they're ready. There is one team that I do feel, and it's a team that I've been trading up with quite a bit. That is the Panthers. This is one team that I would totally be trying to push the pedal to the metal. I mean, I have a first round pick this year. I have multiple second round picks, and I have you have Frank Reich. So I feel like no matter what quarterback you end up going with, you're going to be perfectly fine. He knows how to be able to make quarterbacks that are not Matt Ryan work well. And for me, I think that's exactly what I'm looking for. Another team is the Colts for sure. This is what I would do, so I have to look at it from the Bears' perspective as well. And yeah, it is fair. I mean, I could trade down with the Colts and still get somebody good, or do a double trade down. And you know, I think the Panthers, if I'm also them, I might want to not spend a billion picks to be able to move up to one. And if I'm the Colts, I am sitting there. It's like, dude, I got Steichen. I want to make sure I get my guy. I want to make sure that the Texans, who are in my division, do not end up with, in my opinion, the sole leader of that number one position. So I do think that will cost the Colts a second round pick, maybe this year, maybe next year. I'm not saying this is the only draft capital. Do not worry. It's definitely at least 2 ones. But I'm debating between whether it's going to be this or whether it is going to be that. And that's up for your debate. I think Chicago will put a lot of emphasis on that early second because that's kind of what they gave up for Chase Claypool. So I do believe that this is a rough estimate of what it should be. If I'm the Bears, I'd be happy with this. You have future draft capital as well. You could do a 1-2, 1-2, but if I'm the Colts, I wouldn't do that. I'd want that second round pick myself. And again, I don't want you finicking around with my future picks, whatever. You can kiss my ass and take an extra fourth. So I think that's the right thing to do. We are going to send the trade through. The Colts move up, and in my opinion, the best quarterback by a very solid margin is Bryce Young. I think Steichen can work very well with Bryce Young so long as he ends up not putting him in harm's way the way Jalen was for part of the year. But maybe that shoulder injury is kind of a wake-up call saying, hey, our quarterbacks, like quarterbacks in general, are not invincible, and Bryce Young will just be a daily reminder of that. I think the offensive line can develop, and especially with, free agency, having some good guys there. Hell, Vitae is probably going to be cut. Would not be an awful option to bring him on for maybe $5-10 million for 1 year to be able to plug that hole where Will Fries is. Pick number 2. If I'm sitting here, I'm the Texans. I would be trying to trade out, but the simple fact is I don't see many teams trying to move up to this pick. I think quarterback is likely the pick for the spot. This is a very, very thin QB class. It's a top 4, and it just drops straight off a cliff. So even though I have QBs that are down my board quite a bit, I also understand that they kind of need to be going earlier than where I have them on my board. And my board is reflective of where I think they should be in the draft. And that doesn't take into account depth. It just takes pure talent. So if you guys are wondering, why am I taking a QB at 2 when I have my next one at 16? That's one of the main reasons. But Will Anderson's a great player. I just have a lot of edge rushers, a ton of them. You guys see it below my face. I have a ton of edge rushers in my top 20, top 32, top 40 that I can totally pick up later on. That was one of my big mistakes. Defensive interior, another really good one for D'Amico Ryans to go after. But when you have someone like CJ Stroud, I know that D'Amico's been working in a system with guys who have a similar talent level to CJ Stroud in terms of being able to distribute the ball. I think that if CJ gets in a good rhythm and is in a good system, he could actually kick ass with DeMeco Ryans as his head coach commanding that defense. So I do think that making sure you at least take a shot on CJ might be the best move, and that's really ballsy for me to say. But at number 3, if I am the Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to be drafting out of pure upside, and I think Jalen Carter is the right way to go. For the Bears, I do think that Will Anderson is just the best move here. I mean, you already got your extra second-round pick. You already got yourself future first and a future third. You got enough draft capital. I think now it's time to hit on that value, and it's incredible value with my number 1 player in the class. Pick number 5. If I am Seattle, remember, if I am Seattle, I will look at QB. But here's the issue. I don't really think Will Levis is that good. I don't. I think that Will Levis is on par with Anthony Richardson in terms of overall talent. And here's the thing. If Anthony Richardson shows he has improved mechanics, he's going to shoot leagues above Will Levis, in my eyes. And I know not many people really think Will Levis is better than Anthony Richardson. And right now, technically, according to the grade, he is. But I don't know. It's just Anthony Richardson, as long as he works on his mechanics, I totally believe in him to potentially be a star quarterback. You know, he just needs more experience to get comfortable with the game speeding up. And if his mechanics are there, he's going to be an unstoppable threat. So I am going to say that I kind of believe Anthony Richardson could do that, but it's a multi-year project. Therefore, if I'm sitting here and I am the Seattle Seahawks, I'm getting my ass out of there. I'm straight up saying I'm done. I need to get the hell out of here. And I'm actually going to move up with a team that I wanted to move up with earlier, and that is the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, I mean, you could have moved back with the Cardinals, but if I'm the Cardinals, I know I'm so many years out from being ready that I'm willing to take a shot on somebody who could be a superstar. So I'm going to be moving up here with the Panthers because I do know there are teams, especially like I could look at, there are teams that would move up for a QB. I mean, hell, the Jets are within range, but I just want to secure my guy, and it doesn't cost that much to move up from 9 to 5 the way that it might cost a lot of other teams. If I'm Seattle, I'm saying, dude, don't give me any more picks in this year's draft. I have a shit ton, and I honestly don't have that many needs. I want you loading me up for the future, and this is why I'm doing the trade primarily with Seattle, because I'm getting that future one. And if Frank Reich cannot make this quarterback work, then you are getting a very high overall pick. So we're going to toss in a future first and a third. You guys can debate on the draft capital that you get in return. Again, I'm not going to argue with you guys. It doesn't affect the mock draft. But if I'm moving up to pick number 5, it's down to Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. And you get to choose whichever one you want. But if I'm going to trust somebody who is able to make Carson Wentz, who's pretty much a bona fide bum, look like he could have been the MVP, I'm going to be able to go with the highest ceiling here. So I think Anthony Richardson could definitely be that. And I'm going to take my chances on going Anthony Richardson with Frank Reich. Pick number 6, if I am the Detroit Lions. My next highest guy is Myles Murphy. I would be definitely intrigued to go after Myles. But there is one more QB on the board. There are plenty of teams that could be looking for one. If I'm the Titans, I'm fucked. Straight up. I don't mean to be egregious with my language right there, but you're screwed. Like, you're brutally screwed. And you could just say, hey, let's tank one more year. But I do have to say it would not be the end of the world to go after Will Levis. He fits perfectly in my eyes. I think that he could fit a Ryan Tannehill mold, like hand and glove type of fit. Other teams that could try to make a move up for him, Tampa Bay if you're desperate, but so far, it's just way too out of range for anybody to move up for somebody who is rare in value. And unfortunately, I don't really see anybody who's rare in value. But you know who is? Joey Porter Jr. To me, this guy is Sauce of last year. Sauce was my number 1 overall player. I feel like I kind of understand DBs really well. I feel like it's my strength. I love Tariq Woolen. I was on Andrew Booth. Yeah, I kind of missed on Kyrie Elam, but Kyrie Elam's even had some good games. I think he has a bright future. So for me, I see Joey Porter, and he makes mistakes, but the thing I love most about him is that he learns from them in the same game. He does not make the same mistake in the first half or in the second half that he did in the first, and to me, that is really what makes him different. He's able to have great field awareness. You can just tell that he feels comfortable on a football field, incredible length. He has 4.4 speed. This guy, to me, might be challenging Sauce if he goes to the right system. This system might not necessarily be the hand and glove fit that I would hope for, like maybe the Steelers or the Eagles or the Cardinals, but I know damn well that Joey Porter Jr. is going to be a superstar even in a man-heavy system. Like, even if it's only man, I saw versus Purdue that he was able to learn from his mistakes and end up winning the game on the same plays that they were eating him up on before. So I absolutely love Joey Porter, my number 2 player in the class. I want to show some love right there. Pick number 7, if I am GMing the with the Raiders, I would definitely look at QB. I mean, I would. But I just don't think Will Levis fits the way that some other people do. If I am sitting there and I'm the Raiders and I want to get a QB, personally, I'd be willing to give somebody who is lesser known a shot. Nobody's coming to the top of my mind right now, but even if you end up getting a Tanner McKee in round 3 or a Hendon Hooker round 3, that value to me is better because if they end up panning out, wonderful. And you get an impact player here. If they don't, well, you still did not spend that high of a draft pick on it. So I would personally be looking at defensive back here. But my next highest one's Emmanuel Forbes. And I mean, I really love me some Emmanuel Forbes. But I know damn well I'm probably going to take him if I'm the Eagles at 10. I love Emmanuel Forbes. I think he is the second best defensive back in the class. And I think he might be moving up to challenge for the best. He's been putting on a lot of muscle. He posted it on his Instagram story. He, in like 1.5 months, you could see the definition, and it wasn't the bullshit photos where you see these influencers take it in bad lighting versus perfect lighting after a workout. Like, this looked like it was genuinely probably after a workout, but you can't fake that level of growth. It does look like he's been putting a lot of work in, and he's not that 180-pound man anymore. He looks like he might be 190, maybe even 195 by the combine, which is happening in a week. Holy shit. So we're going to go Emmanuel Forbes here because I think he's that phenomenal. I'm not fully taken into account full scheme fit because, yeah, Devon Witherspoon would be a really good fit. I think Emmanuel Forbes is what people think Devon Witherspoon is. I think he's really that special, and I'm excited to see him totally take over when he ends up showing up to the combine a completely different man, but still the same athlete. I love Emmanuel Forbes. Pick number 8. To me, this has to be Myles Murphy. It has to be. You could move back. You can get extra picks, but I'm at a certain point where Myles Murphy, he's just so consistent and his high-level plays are just so dominant that I cannot pass on him anymore. Pick number 9, Tyree Wilson is very intriguing for me if I'm sitting here at this pick because I do trust Pete Carroll to be able to develop a talent like Tyree. And again, this is not based on realism. This is based on what I would do if I'm just sitting here and I'm the GM. But this is a very, very, very bad offensive line class. Like, it's absolutely atrocious. And I do think this team should at least be taking some pointers on who should be playing on their offensive line. I know that he's going to be gone by pick number 11 or pick number 12. His name's Peter Skoronski. Is it egregious for me to pass on Tyree Wilson? 100% in realism. In realism, yes. But I know myself, and if I'm the GM for all 32 of these teams, I'm going to be taking offensive line early. I'm going to take them often. I know this edge rushing class is super deep, and I'm going to have dudes there who are in my top 10 at that next pick. So if I'm desperate for a defensive end, I can wait. And I know that that's going to be worth it because I know the offensive line class is garbage, so I'm going to capitalize on it early and often. And I think that since you just acquired a future first-round pick, making your offense way better doesn't seem like a very big negative to me. So I'm going to go Peter Skoronski to play that guard role / center for you because I don't believe he has what it takes to play offensive tackle with his arm length, but he is my number 6 player in the draft class. Pick number 10 for Philadelphia. You can continue trading back and, collecting first-round picks, and to be fair, I wouldn't blame you. And as a matter of fact, I might be ending up doing that. There are teams that are going to be trying to move up for Will Levis at this pick. And I honestly think that Derek Carr is going to end up a New York Jet. And there is a team that is trying to get this man, trying to get Derek Carr, that's going to end up without him. and I don't think there's going to be a good enough QB to replace him on the market. That team's New Orleans, and New Orleans is not afraid to part away with first-round picks, and I do believe that this might be the team that I could totally see making it happen, and Philadelphia is going to be trading with them. It sounds crazy, but, I mean, does it actually sound that crazy? To be fair, New Orleans did make an absolutely insane trade as well. So, yeah, New Orleans is going to be taking that 29th pick as well as a first next year to select their quarterback. It might require more draft capital as well, but I feel like the Eagles are, I mean, you can choose whatever you like. I'm going to be making this trade because if I'm Philadelphia, I don't see any DBs that are really worth it to me. I don't see any edge rushers that are really that worth it to me, and I know that I'm going to get future first. My team needs to live on youth, and I have a lot of veterans that are coming up for contracts. This is not a good offensive line class. I want when Lane Johnson says he wants to retire, when Kelsey says he wants to retire, I want to be able to have everything ready for that time and have the draft capital to immediately replace them with high-level talent. To me, that's the way to do this, and Will Levis is worth taking in the top 10. Again, this is not a team where I want to be spending a second-round pick on a QB. I don't want to test my luck because I know this team is kind of too damn good to actually be that ass. Just, if we're going to be honest, this was their pick. They're getting their pick back, and they're going to end up getting a QB here. Like, they would have gotten Will Levis here if they ended up staying, but at the same time, you really have to start thinking, one, other teams are going to take him. I would have taken him in a heartbeat if I'm the Titans, but you have to start thinking about, I just don't believe this team is going to be bad enough to be in range for one of those top 2 QBs next year. And we're seeing teams, what teams would actually suck that much? I mean, you could potentially see a team down this range. There's going to be teams that are worth, to be honest, I think Seattle could be in perfect range to be able to draft Caleb Williams if that is the case. Anyways, pick number 11. If I am coaching if I'm GMing for the Tennessee Titans, of course, I want to look at that offensive line. And I need to make sure that I get some really good athletes on that offensive line. That includes Paris Johnson. But I know damn well Paris Johnson is not worth as much to me as Darnell Wright, someone who's played years at left tackle and right tackle, and he has a lot of work to do, but he's put on weight. He has unbelievable athleticism. This is a team that has time to develop a talent like this, and your identity's in the run game, and I believe that his athleticism can get down the field and be able to just assist any running back that you need. Malik, if he ends up developing, you need an athletic offensive tackle. I do think Darnell Wright is going to be that type of player. So my number 11 player goes at number 11. Pick number 12. I'm looking at Quentin Johnston here. Again, I am the one doing this. It's not D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans is my coach, sure. But Tyree Wilson, to be fair, if D'Amico is my coach, Tyree's kind of nice. And I do have Tyree at 13. I ain't afraid to take my 13th overall player here. D'Amico Ryans gets himself one hell of a tool to play with in Tyree Wilson. Pick number 13. So the Jets, I don't know if I need to do a big song and dance about going offensive line, so I'm going to. I have Anton Harrison as my second best offensive lineman in the class. He has also played at both left and right tackle, so you know he's going to be able to play any position that you need. And I just think that he's super underrated. He's also fairly young, if I'm not mistaken, for the position. So you're getting a guy who has a lot of moldability. He was my OT1 starting the year. Glad to say he's my OT2 now. Pick number 14 for the Patriots. I might even just go Devon Witherspoon here and just say, fuck it, let's test it out. But if I am just, again, we're taking out the Bill Belichick aspect here. I'm looking at Brian Branch and Quentin Johnston. Both these guys are absolute freaks at their position. I love Quentin Johnston. I think that he deserves a lot more respect based off of his contested catch percentage. I don't think Duggan is really assisting him at being able to boost that contested catch percentage. Yeah, he doesn't use his frame maybe as well as he should, but there's also things called freaking wide receiver coaches in the NFL that can actually help him out with that. And I do think that he has shown, especially against Oklahoma in 2021, that he has that dog in him. I think this would be a great fit for the team. I also think Brian Branch's upside is ridiculous, and I would love to see him in the system. But I am tired of having kind of mediocre weapons lead this Patriots offense, I'm going to be going after Quentin Johnston. Pick number 15. I'm pretty intrigued on Brian Branch here. I also want to look at wide receiver. However, I just don't think Jordan Addison fits the way that I'd want to. Again, yes, it's not necessarily the biggest factor because of the fact that I'm the GM, but you also have to realize that the offense is built for a certain style of wide receiver. I don't really think you need to put Jordan Addison in a situation that he's not going to be his best self in. And so at this pick, I'm going to go Brian Branch. I do think they use slot corners at safety really damn well, and you're going to be in need of one. I do think Brian Branch is the perfect pick. It's why I've been doing it so often in my mock drafts. Pick number 16. There's no players that honestly I believe are worth trading up for at this point. So if you guys are wondering why, that's why. I'm going to be going Devon Witherspoon here because I want a hard-hitting corner that can handle someone like A.J. Brown in press coverage. So I love that for him. Pick number 17 for my Steelers. I still think offensive line probably going to be the way I go. And I want to go Broderick Jones because I can kick him into guard and be able to use him even if he sucks at tackle. He has some really good athletic traits. He has some games where he does struggle, but overall, he is a very consistent, very solid tackle and somebody where, honestly, I think he's just going to be better than Dan Moore. And to me, that's a really damn good start. Moving on to the next pick. There we go. Forgot about the part about moving on to the next pick. Here we go. Pick number 18. Lions were back. And I wish I could have traded back for you guys. We ended up getting Joey Porter Jr. You say, hey, Christian Gonzalez is here. I'm going to be honest. I have at least how many corners? 1, 2, 3, 4 corners before him. And these guys are updated except for Garrett Williams and Terry Stevenson. So I have 2 guaranteed before him and 2 guys where their talent level based on the play that I have seen from this year, but the all 22 from last year, it still is worth putting them above him. I'm just going to be completely frank about it. If you cannot handle Michael Wilson from Stanford, I don't believe that you should be getting the hype as the best corner in the class. That's just me. But we already got our corner, and we got my number 2 favorite player in the draft class. Looking at the guys who are still on the board, B.J. Ojulari is an absolute freak. I want to take him sooner rather than later. Jordan Addison still on the board, doesn't fit. Felix, I don't think is a guy who I would go after. So going down the board for the next guy who is available, it's Bijan. And I do believe that Bijan could completely revamp this offense with the assistance of Ben Johnson. We got our DB. I don't think that we need to press too heavy onto the edge rusher yet. I don't think defensive interior is worth it remotely. So I think this is the right thing for us to do. So Bijan Robinson, to me, is head and shoulders going to be the best 3-down back in the draft. And I do think that there is a significant drop-off compared to the next 3-down back in this class. Pick number 19. This is going to be a corner. And looking at the corners available, Christian Gonzalez could be a really good fit here. He is super young. Garrett Williams is coming off an ACL. Tyree Stevenson, I do think he's really good. But again, these guys are all essentially tied. And he's not as updated as Christian Gonzalez is. I don't think Christian Gonzalez is as good as people say he is. I think Kelee Ringo is a better athlete. But both of them struggle mightily. I will actually opt for Christian Gonzalez at this pick because I do think that given his age and given the time to develop on this team, he could be a much better prospect than the other guys. Pick number 20, if I am the guy drafting for the Seattle Seahawks, we've already addressed an offensive line position and got an extra first-round pick next year as well. I'm honestly sitting here and I'm pretty damn happy. I got guys like Brian Breezy that I can hit up. For you guys who like Lucas Van Ness, you can get Lucas Van Ness here. But I'm going to go potentially after B.J. Ojulari or Tuli Tuipulotu. Both guys who are absolutely outstanding in their own right. I really do like B.J. Ojulari, though. He, to me, is super duper special. I think that that's going to be your best return on your investment. So you end up getting my number 6 and 7 player in the draft. Pick number 21. So the Chargers... I do think edge rusher also should at least be in your regimen, but I'm not fooling anybody here, am I? No. My number 9 player is gone now, Jordan Addison, who is an absolutely amazing wide receiver. I just think he's a little bit more scheme specific than maybe what we would like to admit. Pick number 22 for the Ravens. I don't really think there's much that the Ravens need. And it's a little bit weird to say that. But looking at the wide receivers available, I actually think Zay Flowers could be a much better fit than Jordan Addison. But if I'm the Ravens, I want to trade out of here. I really do. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba's there. That's great. But I also have some really good players that I love down the board. I don't need to send it in on one of these guys yet. But to be fair, there are corners here. And if I'm going to trust anybody to develop a defensive back, I'm going to make sure Harbaugh gets his hands on him. I'm going to go to Harbaugh. And I think Keely Ringo has all the traits you're looking for. He just needs the refinement. And Marlon Humphrey is going to be one hell of a mentor to have there with John Harbaugh. Pick number 23. Not seeing many trades right now. I think that this would be potentially a bright move to trade with a team that is looking for a good offensive lineman. I do have Paris Johnson. I think Paris Johnson's not bad at all. It's just I think that he has some crucial flaws, similar to Charles Cross, but I think Charles Cross is better at hiding it. That very well might pop up. So I'm looking at a team that might want to go after Paris Johnson. You'll probably have to have a tall quarterback in order to get this. If I'm the Vikings, I kind of want to trade with a team that's more so desperate for talent and won't potentially screw me over when it comes to being able to be there in the playoff. And I think a team that would probably try to look at that offensive line position, I mean, I'm going to do it because I don't think that they're going to have that great of a pick in the next year. I'm going to look at Houston Texans. And if I'm the Vikings, I don't have that second round pick. And Houston's going to be able to maximize, similar to the Jets, on getting 3 first-round players. So it's going to acquire a second from this year and a third from next to be able to move up. And the Houston Texans are having a field day. They're going to go Paris Johnson Jr. here to be able to play that guard role for C.J. Stroud. And then also he has the ability to play tackle, which is incredible. So now you're pairing him up with his former buddy. That is going to be one hell of a draft for the Texans. Pick number 24, also jumping your own in-division rival, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Pretty unfortunate that I just gave you guys the middle finger. And again, I'm doing this for every single team here. So definitely I'm not partial to any team. It sucks because I really want to go after Clark Phillips, but this is just another team that I'd want to move out. I just don't really need to have him here. And I'm looking at the Giants, and Jack Smith and Jigba and Zay Flowers are great. I want to see a team that might be looking for a third weapon to move up and just snag them. I want to look at the DBs as well. And to be honest, there's some good ones on the board like Jalen Jones, Tyreek Stevenson. I don't really think there's a heavy demand for being able to push into that realm. Offensive line, though, there is one more tackle. One more tackle. So if you're going to go after one more tackle, you're going to need to make a good trade with a very good team. Unfortunately, I don't know if DeJuan Jones is good enough to garner attention from, let's see, a team that might need an offensive tackle. The Colts. I don't think they necessarily need one, but looking after DeJuan Jones would never be a bad move. You could look at the Raiders. Raiders would not be too shabby of a spot, but I don't want to give up the draft capital for that either. You could just go after another right tackle there if you're Tennessee. Would not be a bad move. But the Patriots wouldn't be bad either. I just don't really think that far of a trade is in the cards. So I'm going to trade with a good team here. And I want to find one that is looking for somebody to be that speedster in the slot, or looking for someone who's more dynamic as kind of like that big slot. And I honestly think the Eagles could be in range for a guy like Zay Flowers. You're at this point, honestly, edge rusher, corner, that's probably where you're going to be looking the most. But, getting somebody like Zay Flowers behind Devontae Smith would be kind of nice. And I don't think Jackson Smith and Jigba would be that great of a pick. I lost Steichen. I'd probably want to be able to continue grabbing guys like this because I know I'm going to go after a DB. That's going to be my next move. And I know this edge class is deep. So I'm going to make a really weird trade here, but I do know that the Philadelphia Eagles are probably going to want to try to jump both of the teams in their division in order to be able to get a wide receiver of their choice. This doesn't cost that much at all. I think that it will possibly require a third next year, which, given the sheer amount of picks that the Eagles now have, is definitely doable. So for me, I think the guy who I'd be most scared of here is Zay Flowers, who I think could be have a little Antonio Brown in him. So Zay Flowers is going to go to replace Quez Watkins, and now you have a true dynamic trio of actually really solid receivers. Pick number 25. Now you're handing the keys to Jackson Smith and Jigba to the New York Giants, and also no longer to the Dallas Cowboys. So now Dallas has to figure it out. They went after a raw offensive lineman before. I don't think DeJuan Jones is out of the question. I also think a corner could be in the works here. And looking at it, I love Jalen Jones. I think that he is the better DB, and I'm going to be going with him. He is my number 17 player in the draft class. I do think he's a special talent, just as long as you're able to cover for him not being the most athletic guy in the world, which I do think Dallas can do. Pick number 27. I'm going all in. DeJuan Jones. I don't need to talk about it. Pick number 28 for the Bengals. So if I'm sitting here and I'm the Bengals, I mean, offensive line was probably where I wanted to go the most. Like, I really would have wanted to go an offensive lineman. No longer the case. I do think a right or left tackle are perfectly fine. I might want to go after a DB here, and Deonte Banks might be a really good option. But there's also something called trading out. And actually, my new tight end one is Dalton Kincaid. So I might want to secure him over someone like Michael Mayer in this spot. I do think Dalton Kincaid is going to be awesome, but I also think that I can move back and get someone who is almost as good. So looking at the guys who are still available, Brian Breezy, I'd want to send him to a team that does have a very good track record of developing talent. And that team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm going to be making a move up here with the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Philadelphia Eagles, but the question, that's a really tough one, actually, because I know that, obviously they're in division. Because, do you want to potentially give it to the Eagles, where you play them all the time, or do you want to give it to the Steelers, who's in division, or do you want to give it to the Chicago Bears? Or do you want to give it to Seattle? Wow, that actually kind of sucks. This is actually a pretty interesting trade back spot, because you don't really have great spots to trade back to. Ew, this sucks. So, yeah, I kind of feel bad right now for the Bengals, but a lot of people don't believe in them. So you're going to have to pay the tax. And if I'm going to try to charge the Steelers here, I'm going to make sure that they end up paying. So we are going to acquire that, and we are going to do a nice pick swap there. The Steelers are going to have to make a very pricey move up in order to select a very high ceiling player to potentially replace Cam Hayward. Pick number 29. Essentially, you're jumping the Philadelphia Eagles here. I do think Dalton Kincaid is a good option. I think I'm just going to go with it. I really love Clark Phillips, and I think he can be a baller as a slot or a boundary defensive back. Pick number 30 for the Eagles. Kalijah Cansey just might be the option here, but I got to go defensive back, and I'm going to want to see what Tyreek Stevenson can do, but Deonte Banks is good in zone coverage too. Oh, man. Again, this is my board. I got to remember, this is what I would do. This is not realism here, guys. I'm going to go after Garrett Williams. I think he truly is that special, and maybe it will take him a little while to get back, but you have one hell of a mentor there in Darius Big Play Slay. And at 31, on Lucas Van Ness would be quite intriguing on this team. I mean, I could go away from the standard protocol of Spag and just go after Nolan Smith, and I would be super duper happy. That'd be actually quite awesome. I would love to go Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith is one of my favorite players, and I think he is, besides Drew Sanders, my next favorite guy on the board. Could be the best option here. Looking at the edge rushers who are still available, I love Felix. He is a top 10 player on my board. I'm going to end up showing a little bit of love to Felix there instead. So that is going to be the video, guys. I know it's not realistic. That's the whole entire point. It is not realistic. It's just what I would do. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the far side.